So then, we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word, and this translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. Then per YermiYAhu the prophet, known as from the regular scripture Isaiah, but then the name of the prophet is YermiYAhu, 61st chapter. We find in the time of restoration and reduction from YermiYAhu, the 24th chapter. Regarding then the layer of the time of the end, what could we compare with, so then we can understand what is going to be like in the very near future? What is it going to do? What is it going to change? What would be a reference point where we can make a comparison, as the world must change and will change overnight? Could we truly understand Revelation and Galah and truly understand what it meant? Is it implicit? Is it true? The answer is absolutely yes. The future and what we read in Galah or Revelation is absolutely true. So let's then have as a reference during the time of YermiYAhu, or then known as Jeremiah. Jeremiah then was on the land of Israel, very acquainted with tabernacling, obviously, always pointing the people back to the instructions. And at the same time, the nation was experiencing then the coming out of the land to make sure the land would rest, because of the yearly Shabbat never kept while they owned the land for 490 years. So YermiYAhu was then the last days of their staying on the land of Israel, and then afterwards was then 70 years of exile. During the time of YermiYAhu, known as Jeremiah, he said many times, the Babylonians are coming, the Babylonians are coming, the Babylonians are coming. Many times he said. The nation mocked him, disregarded him, made fun out of him. He was thrown into a cistern, nearly died, he was mistreated, and the nation, boastful in itself, thought they could avert the coming of the Babylonians, because they were so used to the ways of the evil of the time where they owned the land for so long. They did not understand there was a time of a transition where the land had to rest. So then later we understand the prophet YermiYAhu spoke the truth. So have the reference of YermiYAhu the prophet saying, the Babylonians are coming, the Babylonians are coming, the Babylonians are coming. Don't fight against them, but give yourselves over to them. Those words angered the religious and the political people of his time. So then we in America, we have a tendency of trying to make ourselves above the holy instructions when we are not. Our country is very fragile at the moment because we can't use any kind of a weapon until the time comes. So then what we understand is Daniel the prophet is indicating then of a system. Yohanan then indicated of a system. When we understand the other prophets, we find then tabernacling returning. Then we find precisely the prophet Daniel as a politician and a prophet, explaining both areas at the same time in terms of the system. Every time he was explaining of the statue, there was a system related with it. The Babylonian system, Middle Persian system, and then came Alexander the Great system, and then the Roman system. Those were systems. We understand as kingdoms far gone. But while they were in charge of the directives, though they were pagans, they were systems. So then Yohanan has explained areas of the world where there is a huge amount of activity related with a system. So what should we expect of the near future when we have these wisdom from the scripture related with Daniel, related with YermiYAhu the prophet? There is only an answer, and then it comes a time in the very near future people are going to download a system in their computers where they're going to do trade instantly via this specialized system. Nations caught unawares when they have financial institutions with people doing trade in those financial institutions where the government can't remove taxes instantly. These nations are going to be absolutely in trouble. Because the new system has no boundaries. Do you know why it has no boundaries? Because the numbers are always positive. The nation is bound when the nation is in a negative. Always dodging. But then when you understand the system where thousands upon thousands upon thousands of retailers around the world ordering products from China, the main bulk of their products on their shelves comes from China. Then overnight, those people who used to go to those stores, they can download in their system. Not only they can get the products for half of the price, but they can invest in those products and then receive money from those products as those products are sold worldwide. Now, if you understand what the government then is doing, and the lack and the inability of understanding what's coming, and because they have nice positions, you know, they are there for a long time, and they are next to the printing money machine, they consider themselves as kings of some sort of a god or gods. As during the time of YermiYAhu, the nation thought they were saved, and then the Babylonians came. However, the system is going to be a download in the computer. When the government or governments of the world, they are caught not having taxes deducted instantly every time there is earning, they won't be able to fight against it. Obviously, the normal factor is China is going to dictate what to do because it's related with their system. There won't be two systems or more than 2 systems. How do we know? Because Daniel the prophet, he was sent. He indicated there was, for a specific time in the history of the planet, there is a nation in charge during a period of time. We understand the 2nd chapter of Daniel, and then the head of gold, and then the silver, and then the bronze, and then the iron, and then the mixing of iron and clay. What do we understand of the head of gold? There is a nation in charge, then another nation in charge, and then another nation in charge, and then another nation in charge, and another nation in charge. China is going to be in charge of the trade of the end of time. The Eurozone is going to break because Daniel already warned. During the time of the seat, isn't that prior when he said people would go to and fro? And the nations would try to come together and try to adhere to each other, but they would not. Then, people and nations would go to and fro, and knowledge would increase. They would try to come together and adhere to each other, or come in a relationship. It's not going to work, the Eurozone. And evidence is then Germany removing the gold deposits from US and France. Then you have the Bank of China and Citigroup. Citigroup was involved with the mortgage bust in 2008. They joined forces with the Chinese. Then the mortgage is already joined up with the Chinese. Then there is the SWIFT company, specialized internet transactions. Then you understand Daniel the prophet. Then you understand Yohanan. Then you understand the 3rd part of the ships. Then you understand every nation of the earth doing trade with the system. What's coming in the future, the next 36 months, is a simple download on the computer, and nations caught unawares, they won't be able to recuperate. And people are going to be desperate. How do we know they're going to be desperate? Well, read Zechariah. When then they set apart, great part of them are going to return to the holy services. Then 10 Gentiles would get a hold of the garment of the set apart and would ask them, please teach us. We know the Creator is with you. It's not a mere option because they are interested in what the Creator has to say. It's because the world is going to be desperate. Because the system is going to take over the entire world system. In other words, whatsoever we have known in the past, during the time of the seat, is going to be substituted by this new system, and people are going to be doing trade 24/7. So then our governments, are they being wise, understanding the scripture? Or they are doing the same situation as during the time of YermiYAhu? Trusting in their own cisterns and trusting their own systems, trusting their own ways. You know, they have some sort of a certificate of their own. And not realizing they are doing the same thing that they did during the time of the 1,000 years of deceit, expecting another result. Then we find president blaming the House, House blaming the president, and then senators blaming the president, and president blaming the senators. You know what this means? Going to and fro. Means confusion. They are from the time of the 1,000 years of deceit. IMF already predicted a couple of years ago, 5 years, then our monetary system would crash. Couple of years already gone. We have 36 months to get our entire system of our country updated. Every time there is earning in the system, everywhere, anywhere, the government must receive taxes. If they don't, when the system of the Chinese comes, a simple download and the world is going to change. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of stores worldwide, they're going to have no jobs. We were given mostly a scandalized scripture. Translators, they had no clue what they were translating. But then the truth is found in, obviously, this new system coming is going to catch the people unawares. You have to understand, the stock market, for instance, in New York, those people over there screaming and buying and doing trade, those can be done via computer. Then a combination of products for sale and investment at the same time. Then you are giving a list of the products produced. And have this in mind, when this system is available, nations in poverty, they are going to exchange with the natural resources they've got. It's a form of exchange. The whole situation done via computer. So from a normal perspective, what would be then the proper course of action? Instant taxation. Worldwide, every nation taking care of their taxes. Their governments must come up with a system where every time there is earning, everywhere in the system, instant tax deduction. When this area is mastered and then working, exacting, then when the system comes, they can track. Because the new system does not require any kind of nations' systems. They have their own. China, they have their own system. It does not use social security number, though you could include yours. It does not use the regulations of any country. They have their own regulation. And the internet is mostly open throughout the world. Then you find closed secrecy financial institutions. In order for us to understand Gala or Revelation, where then you find the third part of the ships, you find then the nations doing trade with China worldwide. Every nation doing trade with China. You have to understand increasing of knowledge and the downloading of the knowledge in the computer, where people do trade with China. When the governments have no way of doing instant taxation, then they are set for failure. Merely what's going to take place is the citizens of the world, they're going to do trade with China via computer. The government's going to be obviously secondary. And then the nations are going to Arabia. Where the most important decisions are going to be made. And desperate people everywhere. Because a lot of people have no jobs. A lot of people have no computers. A lot of people, they have no knowledge of computers, and they can't get a job. Farming is going to be important. And then the rest of the system, well, as far as USA, our government, they're going to a hole. They're going to the Ozarks. At least this is what they have on their agenda. But the system won't let them. This means chaos on the surface. But then our government wallows around, blaming each other, and doing the same thing as they used to do and expecting another result. Then they hear the truth and they mock, rather than being serious and doing the instant taxation. Because when Israel, after the Babylonians came, then it was late. Recognizing it late does not help the situation. Because we should have listened to YermiYAhu the prophet. It's late. The time to take action was prior of the coming of the Babylonians. There are evidence everywhere in the scripture where you find Daniel, the politician, explaining trade. He's explaining the time of deceit. He's explaining the time where knowledge would increase. You find another layer in Yohanan, third part of the ships. You find China over there taking hold of the entire trade of the world. And then you have China in Citigroup. You have the bust of the mortgages, and you have the systems being linked up. You have SWIFT system of China taking care of transactions of the internet. What can you expect in the future? But when the time comes after 36 months, because they did not know. And don't be crazy then to blame Jews or blame Hebrews or blame any other culture. The instructions from the Creator, they are absolutely clear from A to Z. But nations, they tried to come together as they did for more than 1,000 years, and it won't work. That's why our nation is plunging itself again another crisis, and then comes sequestration and the same old junk, asking opinion of federal government's workers where they don't have any opinion relevant. But then people have this excitement of not knowing what's coming, but yet mocking, and then the time comes the system, and then the government goes into a hole. Our government has lied. They are building over there in the Ozarks a huge place over there. Barrels under the mountain and linking up with many areas of the country. The problem is going to have a system on the surface where they have no control. It's independent from the government. How are they going to deal with it? They can order parts. The freighters must be working. It's linked up with the system. They have to provide freight. They will have their own credit card or debit card or the system card. That's why we have bankings coming along. And the government thinks they're going to a hole. Like reptiles. Yet they go over there in White House and blah blah blah, and they blame each other and doing the same thing they were doing during the time of roaming. Yet they don't understand instant taxation. We've got 36 months to get the system working exactly. Every time there is earning in the system, taxation is then deducted. If the government can't do this job, they should get out of there and reform the entire government with younger people and get the job done the next 36 months. We do not have the luxury of having people over there thinking as they did during the time of the 1,000 years of deceit. There is no time for it. If they are not able to update their data and then act and then understand taxation and the danger of the system coming, then they should get out of there. I don't care if it's the president, vice president, speaker of the house, the whole group. If they don't understand taxation instantly, then they have to get out of there. Because they are incompetent. Not say they are bad people, but they are incompetent. When we have the enlightenment of the holy instructions and we understand what's coming in the future, and then we find people in positions of responsibilities and they don't prepare the country. What was then the objective of Joseph? He prepared the nation. There was then 7 years of famine. Pharaoh recognized he had an understanding of the Creator, and Joseph prepared the nation. And not only the nation, but nations were also included because of the wisdom. Nations must not think they can come around with some sort of a plan of their own and try to go around or find a way out of it. There is no way out of it. After 2009, when the 1,000 years of deceit ended, the directives went back to the hand of the Creator Himself. It's going to be done as per schedule. If our government doesn't know how to do the job, they should get out of there and give the directives to somebody else, younger people, to get the job done. They can laugh as much as they want. When the system comes, they won't be laughing anymore. It's going to be chaos. That's why they are building those burrows over there in the Ozarks. But there is a situation with it. We understand the Chinese, they are going to back up the freighters. You know what this means? UPS, FedEx, and the freighters, they are going to be backed up by China. How do we know? Where do you find the ships? And every nation doing trade with China have to have a system in place. People are going to be doing trade. The government is going to a halt. They are incompetent. But then the freighters are going to be active. So this childish play of the US government blaming each other and blah 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 and sequestration junk and trying to make up time so they can get their retirement and enjoy life, they best forget it. 36 months and the government then is nearly destroyed. So then it shows us the government is not going to a hole as they were thinking. You know, the hole over there with 12 gates.